Welcome to International Definition. My name is Kenneth Freelane, and I'm going to be your host for today's edition of International Definition. Today on International Definition, we're at the planetarium on the Tacoma Park campus of Montgomery College. We have been invited to a meeting of the Science Club by Dr. Harold Williams. Dr. Williams is the faculty advisor to the Science Club, and we have a very special guest whose name is Dave Rahija. Dave Rahija has been an international consultant on safety for the healthcare, aerospace, and medical device industries for more than 25 years. He specializes in helping his clients develop effective solutions which are simple, comprehensive, and profitable. He has been a consultant as well as a trainer in several countries, including Japan, Australia, Sweden, Norway, Germany, and the United Kingdom. For Siemens Medical Systems, he provided training and consulting for 3 years in Stockholm in order to help Siemens recover from a massive FDA recall. Prior to his consulting career, he worked at GE Healthcare and at Booz Allen and Hamilton. From 1994 until 1999, he served as an educator. He was an adjunct professor at the University of Maryland and the doctorate program for reliability. He currently teaches online courses in healthcare management at Florida Institute of Technology. He is also the Healthcare Safety Associate Editor for the Journal of System Safety. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to present our guest for today, Dave Rahija.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I just want to tell you that I came from engineering safety and started helping hospitals because some of my friends got so badly hurt from hospital mistakes, they convinced me I belong to healthcare, not to the aerospace. Aerospace, they have plenty of people. So my topic is the science of patient safety, and this is a book I wrote. The title is Safer Health Hospital Care, and I'm providing them new ideas on how to make the patients safe. Okay, so let me start with a very fine introduction. Okay. On full screen, I'm looking for this. Well, okay. And recent study showed there are 10 times more medical errors than hospitals are reporting. And that means 90% mistakes are not even reported. That's a shocking statistics. And that tells you how, even though the 10% reported cases show us that there's very little progress in the last 10 years, when, even after government pushed them hard to make the patient safe. So the problem is a lot bigger than we know. Okay, so let's look at some data just like I mentioned. Yeah, that amounts to about 300 medical mistakes per day if you take a 600-bed hospital. And there are a lot of hospitals with more than 600 beds. 300 mistakes every day. And if the patient stays in a hospital for 3 to 4 days, half the patients are likely to experience at least one medical mistake. Now, to give you an example of medical mistake, one of my friends had a heart attack. He was diabetic. And at 11:30, the nurse gave him insulin injection. Well, that's good. Then at 12:30, in the next shift, another nurse came and tried to give him the insulin injection, which if he had taken it, he would have gone into coma. Luckily, he was awake. He asked her, "What are you giving me?" She says, "I'm giving you an insulin injection." Well, he said, "I just got one." She was very grateful to him. And so this is just a simple example of medical mistake. Now, there is a professor at Princeton University. He explains why all this happens. And the idea is hospitals are used to blaming nurses, doctors, people who make mistakes. But that's not the real cause of patient harm. The cause of patient harm is much bigger, which is a system that lets them make those mistakes. And if the system is designed right, even if they made a mistake, it shouldn't harm the patients. So that's what I'm talking about. That's the science of safety, that it's not the human beings that cause harm. It's the system that lets them cause harm. Actually, human being at the end of the chain, there are many unsafe things before happening, and we did not know. So just like this nurse I talked about, well, she forgot to write that she gave him the insulin injection. Again, improper system. If she forgot, there should be another kind of check to make sure she wrote that. So that's what I'm talking about. There's a system that we need to correct, not the people. People are going to make mistakes. It's like you going to highways, and I tell you, follow the speed limit of 70 miles an hour. If everyone is going 75, you're likely to go at least 70. So that's the way people are, and that behavior is created by our culture. So there's a professor at Princeton. He wrote a book. It was a New York Times bestseller. So that's the way quality should be, and quality is directly related to safety in healthcare most of the time. So what's the science of patient safety? Well, number one is that human error is not the cause of the harm. Human error comes at the end, where the nurse gave a wrong medication or doctor gave a wrong diagnosis. That's the end of the cycle that has already started way before. So it's just the person gets blamed because the person is at the end of the harm. The human harm is a result of series of hazards, not just one hazard. And management might be too lax. Okay, that's one hazard. The supervision is not enforced. That's another hazard. You can have a wrong MRI not working right that day, and they still took the MRI. And that's the third hazard, because they did not want to shut down the MRI. And hazards could come from equipments, could be coming from chemicals in the air, could be coming from bacteria in the furniture. There are so many ways patient can be harmed, but we have to understand that what are the things that combine together to cause a harm. Human being is just at the end of that chain. And harm can be prevented by identifying the hazards early and mitigating them. That means you change the system to avoid them or control them or minimize them. That's called mitigation. So there's a person by name James Reason in England. He developed the theory. He called it Swiss cheese theory. Okay, he says, imagine there's a Swiss cheese with the hole in it. Hole means there's a potential for harm in it, a potential for failure in it. And if you allow it to fail, that hole opens up bigger. Okay, so, and there will be several cheese slices. As long as you close up one of the holes, you don't have to close all the holes. you can prevent the harm, because the harm has to pass from one hole to another hole to a third hole to fourth hole before the harm is done. So he explains the cheese theory this way. Okay, look at the first layer, the top layer, which could be, each is a latent, hidden danger, okay, or called hazard. The top layer might be, okay, the organizational system is so lax that people don't have any incentive to do a good job. For example, hospitals know 90% have medical errors are not reported. They're letting that happen. That's an example of organizational behavior. Okay. Then there could be supervisor, direct supervisor behavior. And that supervisor can be negligent or ignorant or not paying attention and letting people take shortcuts and all that. So that's a second layer of cheese. So if the organization behavior is bad, that's one hole. And if the supervision is bad, there's another hole. And then there could be some latent hazard from any kind of failure. For example, someone did the honest work but did not follow the procedure quite a bit. For example, in Cleveland Clinic, there was a pharmacy technician, and she mixed the drugs wrong because she was getting married next week, and she was too busy talking about her wedding plans, and she mixed the wrong drugs. Now, there was a system to not let that happen. The system was that her boss, who is a pharmacist, is supposed to also double check her. And that day his computer was down, so he was too busy fixing his computer, he just signed it without really checking, and the patient died. The pharmacist had to go to jail for 6 months. And so so if the pharmacist had done his job, this hole would have been closed. Okay. And the last one is a nurse giving the wrong medication because she got the wrong medication in the package itself. She didn't know. Or she forgot to check the ID band and things like that. So who's going to be blamed? The nurse, because she was at the end of the harm. And people overlooked all other causes. So there's the science of patient safety, that the cause is not just human, but there are much more bigger causes behind human. And those needs to be identified and controlled and mitigated. So how do you identify hazards or dangers very early? Well, anytime you install a new process in the hospital or a new procedure, or anytime you have a new service, you need to thoroughly brainstorm what can go wrong. And the Joint Commission is requiring now a fault tree analysis. Okay, this tool is a great tool, but I have not seen any hospital use it yet. This tool is a root cause analysis kind of tool, but it's much more than root cause analysis. It identifies the relationship between dangers, because some dangers happen, and some things can happen only if 2 or 3 things go wrong. Like, for example, pharmacy technician made a mistake and pharmacy supervisor did not check. 2 things have to go wrong before that happens. So fault tree analysis identifies those kinds of relationships. Just because a pharmacy technician made a mistake doesn't mean patient is going to be harmed. And traditional root cause analysis tools don't do that. They just think anything can cause a harm, which is not true. So I think my recommendation would be stop using those root cause analysis which have very little meaning. Use fault tree analysis instead. And there's plenty of literature on this. It is used in all the industries except healthcare. And why not healthcare? If others can use it, why not healthcare? Actually, healthcare should be the first industry using that tool. Because everything they do is danger. So here's what a failure mode and effects analysis looks like. So what you do is you take a new process. The first column says process step. That means write down every step in the process. And this is analysis only for one step. There could be 60 or 70 steps in the process. So it's a lengthy analysis. So first column says what's the process step you're doing. The second one says what can go wrong with that step. What's the failure mode? Failure mode means what can go wrong with it. Okay, this first step is patient walks in the emergency. Patient got some emergency, walks into the room. What could go wrong? The patient may have to wait 4 hours. That's a very long time for the patient to wait in the hospital. This is an average. This is not unusual. The national average for patient waiting in emergency room is little more than 3.5 hours. That means some patients wait as much as 7 hours. And in fact, New York Hospital, one patient waited 24 hours before she got the help. During that time, the blood clot in her leg traveled to her lungs and all the way to the brain. She got brain stroke or something. She died, waiting just for the help. So this is really a big danger in our hospitals, making patients wait more than 10 minutes. And they say, well, it cannot be done in 10 minutes. Well, the Singapore General Hospital, they got a rule. All patients must see the doctor, and the minute they enter, and the time to see the doctor must be less than 10 minutes. And they monitor every day. And if anyone has to waits more than 10, they find out why this happened, and they try to fix it. So this can be done if we are serious about it, yes. And usual excuses, well, we'll have to hire more staff. Well, question is, what's the cost of patients getting killed while waiting? There's a cost to that too. And malpractice suits. So there's a lot of savings, even if you have to add some staff. But you don't have to add the staff all the time. There are creative ways of doing it without adding the staff. Like one hospital in Illinois, Edward Hospital, as soon as the patient enters an emergency, there's someone asking the patient, what's wrong with you? And if something is not seriously wrong, those patients are sent right away to the regular wards to take care of them. So they don't have to wait in emergency room. Only serious patients wait in emergency room. All others 80% are shifted to other hospital departments. No staff added. Okay, so the third column says, okay, the causes of the failure. Well, the causes of failure could be that you got shortage of staff, just like I mentioned, but there's a creative way of overcoming that. That's called mitigation, the last column. But in between, there are 3 other columns, which says severity stands for severity. Then the second column is frequency. Third is detection rating. Each is rated on a scale of 1 to 10. For example, okay, severity means how badly the patient is going to be getting harmed. Well, if the patient could get fatality, that will be obviously highest rating. That will be 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. And then frequently means how frequently this happens. If this happens every week, the frequency rating would be 10, even though here it says little less than 10.6. But that's a hospital defines how frequently is bad. So 6 means patients don't have to wait too long, okay, usually. And the third is detection rating, which is saying how early can you detect the harm. So if the triage nurse can detect the harm early, or any other nurse can detect the harm early, then rating will be lower. But if the harm is detected after 6 hours of waiting, that's too late. So depending upon how long the patient has to wait, so detection rating will be depending on that. So if I say it is 6 means usually patient gets service in very reasonable time. So that's a healthcare FMEA tool. All the VA hospitals use it. They started using before even Joint Commission required it, because they learned from techniques from other industries. This is, again, this is a tool also used by all industries except healthcare until Joint Commission required it. Only VA hospitals used it before. So this tool is called fault tree analysis. Okay, this one says that the patient is using a ventilator, and how could the patient get hyperventilated or hypoventilated? Okay, too little ventilation or too much. And so you start at the top level, different ways patient can get hypoventilated, for example. And one of the branches is patient makes mistake himself or herself. You know, patients can make him harm themselves too. And so question is, how can the patient harm himself or herself? So this is the expansion of that. And it says, well, user can initiate a failure by making a programming error. User programs it wrong. Just like computer, you can put something wrong and you choose a wrong program. Or the patient can set it wrong, use the wrong error in setting. So how could user programming error could take place? Because the user is trying to control the volume instead of breathing rate by mistake. It's nighttime, the patient cannot see which knob he's turning or she's turning. Turn the wrong knob. And now, most of the ventilators have protections. If you turn the wrong knob, it'll give you alert. So the patient would not be harmed just because the patient chose the wrong program. The alarm also has to not work. Then only patient get harmed. So this relationship is shown by there are two kinds of gates. At the top, it's like an elliptical thing. It's called OR gate. OR means this branch or this branch can cause harm. And the lower level, there are AND gates. AND means it's like a bucket, and that means this branch and this branch both have to go wrong before the patient patient is harmed. So these two gates show the relations between different dangers. So idea is to identify what kind of dangers come under OR gate. OR gate means they individually can cause a harm to the next level of harm. And there might be other barriers too. They have to fail also. But idea is this tells you, just because the user chose a knob doesn't mean it's a harm. It only has a harm only if the alarm also doesn't work. And similar thing in other branch also. The user sets a high volume, low pressure limit instead of other way. And then again, the alarm is supposed to let the patient know you chose the wrong setting. And if the alarm fails, then you got a danger. So this tool tells you the relationship between the events that can happen. Some cause harm, some caused by themselves harm, others cannot. That's a very good knowledge. Okay, so now let's talk about how do you minimize the harm to the patients. Number one technique is stop doing the work, unsafe work. Then safer ideas will come by themselves. Just stop using the unsafe work. Okay, I give you an example of unsafe work. That making the patients wait for 4 hours in the emergency room. You have to stop doing that right away. And then ideas will come by themselves. How do I manage? If you don't ask a question, if you don't stop doing the wrong things, you never have incentive for doing the right things. So it's a simple paradigm, but a very powerful paradigm. So okay, Ken, it's all yours now. Thank you very much.
Let's give him a round of applause. Our speaker today has been Dave Rahija, and he's been telling us about the science of patient safety. We're here on the Tacoma Park Silver Spring campus of Montgomery College, and I'm glad that you were able to join us for today's edition of International Definition. And now, until our next broadcast, I'm your host, Kenneth Freeland, thanking you for joining us today.
Thank you.